Right now, happy to be joined by Lynne Snierson, the New England correspondent for the Racing Form and Blood Horse. Going to talk a little bit about closing day at Suffolk this past weekend and what potentially the future holds. Good morning, Lynne.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to chat with you.
Happy to have you on board because, again, New England racing right around the corner for those of us here in upstate New York, and I'm sure a lot of people are interested in the future of Suffolk. Saturday, potentially the closing day for all time, although we'll talk a little bit about what the future might hold in a few moments, but I just want to go back to Saturday. All of this unfolded really within the past couple of weeks, and we had you on a couple of weeks ago to talk about the situation at that point, and things were still a little bit in flux as far as applications for 2015. Closing day, they had said at that point, was going to be moved from last Monday to Saturday to give people a chance to turn out. I want to get a little feel of, and I found some pictures on the internet. People posted some Twitter pictures. It looks like there was a very good crowd on Saturday. Just give us a little of the flavor. What was the crowd like, and what was the atmosphere like on Saturday?
Well, we were standing there, looking at the crowd, and we all said, where have all these people been the last 6 or 7 years, The crowd was fabulous. It was said to be 9,153, which was certainly a huge improvement from the handful of people that you would see on a weekday afternoon out on the apron, and maybe the 1,000 in the few buildings playing simulcasting. So we were like, oh yeah, now you come out. But no, the crowd was fantastic. They were incredibly enthusiastic. They were extremely energized. They were pounding the windows. I mean, it was really like the good old days, which actually made it even a little bit sadder because you can't help but thinking, wow, what might have been.
Yeah, and was there any sense that, I was going to ask you that question that you started with, was there any sense of where have you all been? Why haven't you been supporting this facility? Why are you showing up for the funeral like this?
Well, no, we were just, we were happy to have them there, and we just kept really concentrating on really what we had, we all had to do that day. And there were, a lot of tears, a lot of hugs, a lot of emotion. And, fortunately, because of the horsemen stepping forward, there was hope.
And let me shift it now to the media side. I have the Equidaily webpage where I go out and search news all the time. And today, and over the past few days, I've had a lot of coverage of the closure of Suffolk Downs from the Boston area media, both the newspapers and the local television stations up there. They all did extensive coverage of closing day, including the television stations with video pieces. Boston Globe had a piece within the past couple of days looking back at the crowd that showed up on Saturday and kind of lamenting, gee, where were these people, and younger people, and there were younger people there on Saturday enjoying the day. Why weren't they trying harder to pull them in? And my thought was, wait, where were you guys? Where was the media over the past 5 years or so? And was there any kind of thought among the horse people and whatnot about that? Where was the Boston media, who seemed to show up in droves on closing day?
Well, it's really interesting that you just said that, because I was going to go right there with my answer, and I was exactly going to say, I'm a member of the media, but I'll put it right back on my colleagues. I had actually, not that I'm so wonderful, but I had actually made some calls and talked to some people and said, you really should come out to the track, and you really should do a story about what's going to happen if, and this was all leading up to the decision, the fateful death warrant that was signed by the Massachusetts Gaming Commission when they chose this proposal from Wynn Resorts over that of Mohegan Sun's to put a casino at Suffolk and keep the track alive. And I said to some of them, there are some really great stories here. You should go to the farm, talk to the breeders. You should come out to the track. You should talk to the horsemen, talk to, everybody in the New England racing family, because if this decision doesn't go Suffolk's way, everybody's out of work and this track is going to close. And I think, I honestly think that everybody seemed to think that it was maybe crying wolf. I had so many people in the media say, yeah, well, that's a story for after the fact. There was no incentive to come out to the story and write like, hey, this is very real. This is going to happen. This decision, needs to go the way of Suffolk Downs. And, the media, for the most part, really did not care. But they liked to go to the funeral. No, they didn't come to the wedding, but they sure wanted to go to the funeral.
Yeah, and it was just so disappointing to me over the last few days to see the amount of coverage that the last day got. And I thought, how did you drop the ball and not cover? Because this story was happening every day out there. And I think horse racing is a major sport in a lot of communities now, and newspaper coverage is just dwindling and dwindling. And I find it very, very disappointing. But there potentially is reason for optimism when the applications for 2015 dates. And when we talked to you before, I had asked you, would the Gaming Commission maybe extend the deadline? They didn't do that, but they did something almost as good in that they allowed for what they were calling placeholder applications. So you didn't have to have kind of your full application there. The horsemen have taken advantage of that. Now, one of the video pieces I saw over the past couple of days, I think it was Chip Tuttle, but I won't say for certain. It was an official at Suffolk Downs who they were asking about the future and the horsemen's bid. And he said, I just don't know whether they can make the economic model work. But let me ask you, doesn't this Thoroughbred Development Fund essentially change the economic model and make it perhaps a little bit easier for the horsemen?
Well, it's the racehorse. Without the Racehorse Development Fund, and we'll touch on that, there's absolutely no way. There would have been no hope there because there would have been no money. Okay? But the money isn't in the fund yet. The only money that would be in that fund right now is the 5% of the slot parlor license fee of $25 million from the harness track because Penn National got the slots license there. And then the thoroughbreds get 75% of that 5%, with the standardbreds getting the other 25%. So everything is tied to this Racehorse Development Fund. So yes, but there is it's Massachusetts racing, so it's Massachusetts politics, so it's never easy. There is a referendum on Election Day, which is within a month, to repeal the law that authorized expanded gaming in Massachusetts. That's the law that said you can have up to 3 destination resort casinos in 3 separate geographical areas and 1 standalone slots parlor, all right? If that legislation is repealed on the statewide ballot, then there are no casinos, and then there is no Racehorse Development Fund because the future revenue, gaming revenue, is what will fuel this Racehorse Development Fund. So no matter how good intentions anybody is, no matter what kind of a plan or a deal they might be able to structure, if that referendum passes and the casino law is repealed, it is absolutely dead, buried, never to be resurrected. So what everybody needs to focus on in the short term now is getting people out to the polls to vote no on that referendum, because no racehorse development, no money, no hope.
And let me ask you, that's a great point, and I read a couple of different opinions right after the decision to go with Wynn was made, and that was horsemen should get out and, as a matter of revenge, go and vote for the repeal. And then folks said just what you said. No. That slots money is going to benefit us, and so they're working now to go against this. Give us a little feel of what the feeling is up there, how this referendum might go.
Well, actually, before I answer the question, I will say, not that I'm so great, because I'm certainly not, but I wrote a piece for the forum and wrote about it in the Blood Horse too. And my lead was, living well is the best revenge. Okay? I mean, I know that, there's a lot of sour grapes right now, and I heard a lot of people say, well, if we can't have the casino, then we don't want anybody to have the casino. But, I would try to explain to people, and these are not just horsemen, these are people in the area surrounding Suffolk Downs and the city of Revere who really wanted to have this casino in their community. And I'm like, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. Live well. That's how you're going to get your revenge. I mean, and so now, I think that the message is getting out there that, hey, guess what? No casinos, no money for racing. I think it's going really well, by the way, because the recent polls say that the anti-casino forces are going to have a pretty uphill climb. And of course, there's a coalition here trying to make sure that this referendum doesn't pass. Penn National, who got the slots license for the harness track, they're in the coalition. MGM, which got the casino license for the western part of the state, they're in. And I'm reading now that the Wynn, who got the casino license, the really lucrative license for the Boston area, they're in, and they're going to be all part of this coalition to make sure that they get the word out that this is about, not even mentioning racing. They're doing jobs, 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 economy, economy, economy. So they have a lot of TV. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of power. And there's a lot of TV commercials are running now. And it all just talks about, creating jobs, stimulating the economy. So I'm optimistic that this referendum to repeal the casino law will not pass.
Are the slots already up and running? What is it, Plainfield? Are they already up and running?
No. They just they got their license on February 28th. Then they had to buy the track from the current owners, so they had to execute that deal. So they are under construction. They are slated to open in June.
Okay, and then that leads me into the next question. We've talked about this Thoroughbred Development Fund, or the Racehorse Development Fund, which will be based on percentages of casino monies. But how soon will that start to accrue? Because again, the horsemen have now applied potentially for 2015 dates, least Suffolk Downs. But when will this development fund have some money that they can dip into?
Well, I think I'm not. I'm a racetracker and a sports writer, so I'm not so good on the financial stuff. But I've heard that I don't know how finance. I don't really understand how big finance works, but I know that when people want to do things, they can they can get bonds floated, they can borrow money, and so what I'm thinking is that they can get perhaps find a way somehow to structure a deal where they can borrow through the Massachusetts Gaming Commission against future revenues. I'm thinking, that has to be possible.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah, that's a great point. You would think once this referendum goes through, and if it goes through in the casino's favor, then they know, oh, okay, we've got this money out there, and you would think, yes, somebody would be willing to jump in. Yeah, that's a good point. And
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
But the Massachusetts, because of the potential of this referendum passing, because when Plainridge got their slots license, they had to pony up, immediately, their $25 million license fee. Then the referendum got on the ballot, and then the Gaming Commission granted the request of both MGM and Wynn to not have to pay their $85 million each license fee until after the referendum. So, Election Day is November 4th, so I'm thinking, November 5th, that they're going to be looking, the Commission's going to be looking for that check. So there's $25 million already, and then 85 times 2 is going to come in. So there'll be some money flowing in immediately, and the day that first slots machine starts clicking, clanging away, there's going to be revenue that's going to be going into that fund. The way it works is that 9% of the slots revenue goes to the fund, and 0.625% of the gross gaming revenue from all three casinos when they're up and running. So you're talking 100, 125, maybe million that would be available as 75% for the thoroughbreds. If the casino projections hold true, so there will be money there to be had.
And Thoroughbred Commentary, the website by Charlie Hayward and Company, had a nice piece. I've linked to it over on Equidaily, looking at the long forgotten tracks of New England, and hopefully Suffolk Downs won't be one of them. But it's a great article. I tell people to go over and peruse it, and remembering the Rockinghams and the Narragansetts and whatnot. And as I say, hopefully Suffolk Downs doesn't get put into that, and we have some racing next year. But give me an overall feeling. What is the optimism level?
The horsemen and the jockeys are definitely optimistic. Talked to a lot of people who talked about, I think we're going to be back next year. I hope we're going to be back next year. I'm planning on coming back next year. And I don't blame people for having hope because, right now I think we're all ready to just grab any lifeline that we see floating out there. But, every time I talk to Chip Tuttle, and every time you see Chip interviewed, as you did, he stresses, that how very, very, very difficult it is, to make it work, make the numbers work, make the finances work, and what a real long shot this is. So I'm going to remain enthusiastic. I'm going to remain positive. I'm going to try to manifest, racing at Suffolk Downs next year. But in the meantime, if there isn't, the Carney family has stepped forward and said they want to run a fair meet in Brockton.
And it is absolutely going to be very interesting, and we have our fingers crossed as well. I said, when this decision first came down and folks were really looking at the absolute closure of Suffolk, within the first couple of days after the decision being made, I said, let's wait. I won't surprise me if some attempt is made to keep racing up there. And I pointed to, and I would tell the folks at Suffolk to get in touch with the people out of Fort Erie, who were really in the same position just a couple of years ago, where things looked dire out there. And now they're pretty stable, I guess, for about the next 4 years or so anyway. So it's a really similar situation out there. So we'll hope things work out that way for Suffolk as well.
Yeah, thanks. And look at Monmouth.
Yeah, exactly.
They were going, they were down and out. They were going under. In 2012, the deal blew up, and it looked like they weren't going to be able to run a meet. And then the Horsemen stepped forward. The Horsemen run that racetrack now.
Yeah, exactly. So there are a couple of examples that we can focus on and hope for the best. But we'll keep our eyes on the situation up in the Boston area and Suffolk Downs, and we'll continue to keep in touch with you, Lynn, and read your pieces in the Racing Forum and the Blood Horse. We appreciate the visit this morning.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to come on and talk with you, and hopefully, be by November, after November 15th, we can talk about, that there's a deal done, because November 15th is the absolute drop-dead deadline for the Massachusetts Gaming Commission to have submitted the final detailed dates application.
Oh, great. So we will. We'll make a date, and we'll talk after that decision is made. Lynn, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Lynne Snierson, again, writes about New England racing for the Racing Forum and the Blood Horse. That leads us to our first break. When we come back, Tony Kalo from the Finger Lakes. Stay tuned.